This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
From training to transformation, it's all about AAIT in real practice. And to close out this series, I'm joined once again by Melanie McGhee, who I've had the pleasure of speaking with the past few months, creator of acceptance and integration training. That's what AAIT means. And her guest today, Carla Winchester, a licensed therapist and an AAIT trainer who's using this work every day with real clients. Today, we're talking about what AAIT looks like in practice and why it's really resonating so deeply with both clients and clinicians. We'll start with Carla. As a trainer and mentor, she supports therapists in developing confidence and presence with AAIT. And as a seasoned therapist, she's seen a lot of approaches to mental health care. So let me start with you, Carla. How did you first encounter AAIT, and really what made you decide to pursue, training with it?
Sure, yes. So, as a licensed clinical social worker, we are required to go to, continued education every year. And whenever I attended those, there would be a survey afterwards saying, okay, what do you want to see coming up? And I would say Part B, because you would get this intro into these methods. And yeah, it was just this intro, like 101 and so I was studying with another colleague and we were doing another modality, and that group came to an end. And she said, okay, the next thing you have to do is learn AAIT. And I said, okay. So I scheduled an appointment with Melanie as her client. And uh, during the first session, I mean, it was years ago before 2020, so I don't remember what the actual issue was. But at the end of it, it was like, oh my gosh, I was in a non-dual state of awareness, which feels like nothing at all, which
Mhm.
I had never experienced before in my life. My brain is always going chatter, 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 chatter. And I was like, oh, this is really new and different, and I need to also offer this to my clients.
Wow. So what really stood out, would you say, with AIT compared to some other models that you studied?
Yeah, so again, just the ease and quickness that it resolves problems. I was also very interested in offering the trauma process to my clients, which is called fingertip method. And when I use fingertip method on clients, they are stunned because they've been holding traumatic situations with them for years. And we take that experience and we're able to resolve it sometimes in one session. And at the end of the experience, my clients are looking at me like, what just happened? And it's remarkable, and the trauma process isn't to forget about the trauma. It's still there, it's still a memory, but it doesn't it's they're not as affected by it. And just they're reporting that to me
Yeah,
is absolutely amazing.
amazing. And could I ask you really what shifted for you personally as you began learning this?
So as I learned it, the more I practiced, the more okay I was. So I wake up now, my baseline is okay.
Yeah,
Like I'm not charged. I'm not worried. I'm
yeah,
not, all of these things, and life happens, right? So
sure.
life happens and good and bad things happen. And so something bothers me again, and I have a quick tool to go to make it so that it's not so charged and like I can't get past it. I can.
Yeah. All right. Well, what does working with AIT look like with clients, would you say, especially compared to, traditional talk therapy?
So, yeah, so in traditional talk therapy, the clients often stay a lot in discovery. Like this is what happened to me, and this is my story, and we're just going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. And then at the end of the session, we're going to analyze it and put it into, well, maybe this bothers you because this person reminds you of this person from the past. And
Mm-hmm.
it's all this analysis. And yes, talk therapy can make people feel better-ish. Um, and I'm not putting down traditional talk therapy. I've had it, I've done it, and it is beneficial. But this, you are in a session, and at the end of the session, you feel like at least one of your problems is resolved.
Got it. I love the way you
And
describe that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd love to give you an example that's fresh
Sure.
on my mind. And it's actually from the fellowship training group that I'm a co-leader of. But the therapists were learning the trauma protocol. And so we do our own work in the trainings. Like you bring a piece of work to actually go through the process with so that you're learning it so that then you can be a therapist in
Yep.
it and you're receiving the benefit. And back in September, when we taught the fingertip method, one of the therapists there had broken her ankle and there was some trauma around it. Now, the ankle had healed, but the ankle still hurt her. Going upstairs, like in bed, was just painful, throbbing, just awful, just the remnants of having a broken ankle. So after a fingertip method,
Yep.
she reported to the group that she no longer felt the pain. And her face was like this.
Wow.
I do not know what's happening. Like she was trying to make it hurt on purpose. It felt
Wow.
so weird.
Mm-hmm.
And so we checked in with her this the first weekend of December to say, "Hey, what's going on with your ankle?" She said, "I have no more pain."
Amazing.
In her life, she'll catch herself like running up these stairs and she's like, "I just ran up the stairs." And it has lasted for at least 3 months.
Wow. That is impressive. I know Melanie has amazing stories like these too, and we're going to talk more about this. So, would you say that, what do clients really notice first, and then how do they kind of feel different emotionally or energetically, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So what clients notice first is the problem that they started talking to me about is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And they experience this calm, steady ease. And if they're new with me, it's sort of disarming. It's like,
Yeah.
why am I not feeling all stirred up anymore? And so you actually have to address that as well. Like, yeah, this is what the goal was of the session.
Yep.
Like to feel at ease, to feel this peace and non-dual state of awareness.
Amazing. Well, would
It
you
is.
say, what type of issues does AIT seem really effective with?
Oh my goodness. Anxiety, depression, PTSD. I can't think of an issue that it wouldn't be helpful with.
Oh, good to know. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this. And can I ask you to tell maybe, I know you mentioned already one story that really captured the impact of AAIT. Is there anything else or another client that you wanted to mention before we continue with Melanie?
Sure. So I have a client who has seen me for a number of years. She has some pretty significant mental illness and but she's doing much better. And so I was seeing her twice a week and she really didn't need to come twice a week anymore. She was ready to come to me once a week, but she didn't trust that. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, it's been this transition. And this one week, she was very, very stirred up over a conflict with a neighbor. And she came in and she told me all about it. And then she wanted to see me again that week. She kept asking me, like texting me after the session, calling me. And I said, have you tried the home practice yet? Because I'd given her home
Yep.
practice exercises that she has in her tool belt. Have you done these things? And she was like, no, I haven't yet. I just feel so terrible. I feel this awful, this sinking feeling, this sick feeling. And I had given her all these examples of practices she could try. And I said, have you tried any of them yet? She said, no. I said, well, how about do that first? We'll touch base after that. And she did. And she texted me back and she was like, I really do feel better. And I'm like, mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So she didn't want to admit that because she really wanted to see me a second time that week. But she didn't need to. She had what she needed. She just didn't know she had what she needed. I knew she had what she needed.
Amazing. Well, Melanie, tell us, what it's like for you to see practitioners just like Carla carrying this work forward, if you don't mind.
Oh, it's so heartwarming. I've watched Carla dedicate herself to learning and encountered people in the community. If I run into someone, oh yeah, I've seen Carla at Winchester and
Yep.
she's so good. And so and Carla continuously has a wait list, and it's only gotten more with using AIT. And it is just deeply rewarding to know that Carla's clients and people like Carla's clients are getting
Yeah.
quick relief and feeling better about their problems, surprisingly to themselves, like Carla was saying.
Well, do you want to talk, a little bit about, AIT, and is it really landing the way, that you hoped? And, what do you notice about practitioners that are going through this training?
It is landing the way I hoped. I didn't really set out to do any of this, but when I mean, really, I was just really happy being a quiet little therapist in rural East Tennessee. But seeing other therapists get these kinds of results, it's not something I could keep to myself. It really is something that I hope for all of us, that all of us have access to the means to reestablish our state and get back to a kind of balance and a kind of wholeness that is, I think, our birthright. So it is profoundly rewarding to listen to Carla talk about the changes and the impact of the work that she's doing.
And I know obviously she came to you, Melanie, but just share just a little bit of how when you met Carla originally. Do you remember when that was? And what was like the first moments of exchange about? Obviously, she was like, "This is amazing. I want to do it." But what was that interaction like?
Well, honestly, it's hard to remember because we practice in the same small community. So I'm sure we met
Okay.
before. And like I said, I've heard about Carla for years and years before she came into
Oh,
the
okay.
community. It's hard to remember. I do remember the look of astonishment that you saw on Carla's face when she was describing her clients. I do remember that. I do remember that sort of what just happened. I don't understand. Like someone who's been practicing for a couple of decades and then to have all of this experience behind her and no stranger to her own personal work to experience something that in 15-20 minutes is radically different than the previous 15-20 minutes when she first came in. I do remember that look of astonishment.
Carla, do you remember that?
Yes, and before I went to and trained for the fellowship training group so that I could be certified, I signed up for every weekend training Melanie offered. It was like, oh, let me do this, let me do this, let me do this. Just anything that she was training therapists on, I was signing up for those weekend trainings.
Wow. Amazing. Well, look at this. You're now an AIT trainer, and we're going to talk more about, from, a therapist's point of view, really, why do clinicians tend to fall in love with it? I mean, how does it impact burnout? How does it change a therapist's own inner experience? Do you mind diving in a little further with that?
Absolutely. I think the way it helps with burnout is when we sit and listen to someone's story a lot, um, and we don't see a lot of movement in them, it can feel like, am I really helping this person? And so being able to actually resolve a problem within a session, maybe even more than one problem in a session, and recognizably see this client is different than the way they entered into my office today is so rewarding. And so then there's not this heaviness associated with the work. It's like you're still hearing awful things that people are experiencing in their life. People suffer. And then we're putting it into an AIT process, and it's becoming lighter and less, um, they're not restrained by it. They're not paralyzed by it. They're not having to walk back into the world just stuck.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback on that because I think the other thing that's pretty thrilling for a therapist is that to be able to affect change quickly and then help the client find their own inner wisdom is profoundly rewarding. That they're not relying on us for some supreme analysis of their situation, but they discover their own wisdom about their lives and the next right action that's right for them without us saying, hey, what if you try this? They know what they want to try.
And in traditional talk therapy, you may hear the same story multiple times. I am not insulting any client. That's just where their head is. They've come to learn or think they learn that this is my story and this is how I see the world, and I
Yeah.
can't do anything differently. And then you just keep hearing it, even if it's not about the same person, it's the same kind of patterns with the next person they meet in their
Yeah.
life. And then they're coming to you with that problem. And so, with the tools of AAIT, they get unstuck from their story.
Yeah. Yeah. Unstuck. That's a good way to say it, right?
Mhm.
Did you want to talk a little bit more about, what, other therapists say after their first few integrations with AIT, or do you want to talk a little bit about some, what happens with the trainees as they're learning? Any other input would be very helpful, Carla. And
Yeah.
Melanie, you could step in anytime. I'm sorry.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
it.
So I'm a co-trainer right currently with a group of fellowship training in the fellowship training course, and so they will be certified after it's over. And it's the same sort of amazement as a client. Like they're learning these processes and just the astonishment on their faces. And then, they are talking about how it's different or like some of the other modalities they use. And they are truly practicing right there with partners. We break out in partners. And so we're teaching a process.
Hmm.
They're experiencing the process on themselves. Then they are leading other therapists through the
Yeah.
process. So they're getting this very in interactional experience. It's not just of the mind.
Yeah.
And it creates this very close network of people because we're sharing huge vulnerabilities with each other.
Yeah, the community of practitioners becomes quite tight. And once you've gone through the fellowship training group, it's like you're in the family, and it's becomes quite like Carla said, quite intimate because the training is experiential by nature, that it's immersive, it's experiential, and it's a paradigm shift. So it's disrupting people's ideas about how change has to happen, and they are experiencing that. And so it really people are going through the training are confronted by their own ideas about what needs to happen, and it takes some time to make that paradigm shift. And this community support that we experience with each cohort that goes
Hmm.
through, that really facilitates an easier adaptation of what they're learning.
Great. And we still have 5 more minutes left. I just want to make sure we're covering everything. Melanie, if you want to jump in to kind of guide us down the path of what you think is next, most important for us to get through.
Excuse me. I think that one of the things that therapists, so we've talked a lot about therapists, but we also train, I don't know if Carla, if you have any folks in your current cohort, but we also train coaches and spiritual directors. And so this mix of healing arts professionals that come into our training cohorts adds a richness to the training experience that I think is really unlike most other certification programs, most other trainings. It's so intimate and it's so real. I mean, the real problems are being solved. A woman came into one of my cohorts, and like within a couple of weeks after she joined the training, their house burned to the ground, like
Ah,
burned to the ground. And at any other time, she was saying that she was quite certain she would need to drop out.
ah,
But because of the nature of the training, she was
yep.
actually able to navigate this tremendous traumatic event in her life with relative ease and good humor. And our mental health workforce needs that kind of well-being in our own selves. I mean, we do this training so we can help other people, but at the heart of it, if we can also keep ourselves steady and keep ourselves in a state of well-being and wholeness and balance, all the better for our clients, all the better for our families and friends.
And Melanie, the person you were talking about, I was an apprentice in that group and had the humbling experience of watching this person. And she already knew EMDR. And so she had EMDR tools.
Yeah.
And she told us that it was the AAIT tools
Mm-hmm.
that was helping her get through this.
Mhm. Yeah. And we all face challenges. We all need something to help us get through. Just even the minor stressors like holiday stress to the big events, because
Yeah.
it's going to hit all of us. And so if we have ready tools in our toolbox, then we're all the better for it.
Perfect. And I know, we've been talking, a lot about building. You mentioned a nonprofit around this work, right? So, how really would you say the Alliance for Integrated Awareness support practitioners like Carla Melanie?
Well, I also want to acknowledge that
Yeah.
Carla is on the board for the
Oh,
Alliance for Integrated Awareness.
oh,
So her
okay.
service to the community moves beyond being a therapist and a trainer, but she is a steadfast volunteer and supporter of the Alliance for Integrated Awareness. And I'm sorry, Jill, I forgot your question because I wanted to like.
Oh, no, it's okay. How does, the AIT support practitioners like Carla, like, why would you say it's important to really build a nonprofit around this work? And
Ah, yes.
yeah,
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me on track. So, yes. So, one of the things that's really evident in our mental health workforce is that social workers, licensed professional counselors, psychologists, educational college counselors, all generally are at the lower income range and can't and have the responsibility to care for the well-being of our communities based on poverty level salaries. And that became a real problem. There are some of us in private practice who have managed to save enough to be able to do these trainings, but there are others who don't even have the resources to save anything to put aside for doing a training like this. So thanks to the generosity of our donors, we are able to bolster up our mental health workforce and make sure that therapists are trained in the most effective and most forward treatment modalities, that their clients deserve the same thing that those of us who could afford to go to a private practitioner can afford. So we really want to make sure that we are supporting our mental health workforce and getting this work out there to the people who need it most. And so part of how we support therapists like Carla is we have the training, the people who come into our training have access to a skills lab, hundreds of hours of video recordings that they can review.
mhm,
So it's not a one and done. They're automatically a part of our community and can ask questions. We have consultation groups that people can come into after
great.
the training to make sure. Our practitioners also offer what we call practice groups. They call them different things, but people where, individual therapy is expensive, but Carla can facilitate and facilitates a group where people can come into the group and it's less expensive. Plus, you have the support of community, which we all really need the support of community.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we wrap up this series, what do you really want most? Do you want, I should say, listeners, especially healing professionals, to really take with them?
I'm curious what Carla would have to say. What I would want is for healing arts professionals to recognize that that change in healing doesn't have to be slow. And when it's done and we provide a root cause solution, we have root healing. We have healing at the very root, which is transformative. And that doesn't mean we have to know the why. That's not
Yeah.
what that means. It means that we are resolving the issue at the root cause beyond the why. And for a therapist to know how to do that and be able to invest in their own professional development in that
Yep.
way, that's a lifelong change that will serve therapists for the rest of their lives. And I'd want them to invest in themselves like that, to know that.
Perfect. And would you say, what would you say to someone who's curious about this, a little unsure?
Carla, I'll toss that to you.
Yeah, so just trust your instinct, look up AAIT, reach out to some of us AAIT practitioners. I would love to talk to anyone about it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And really, what stands out about all this, that healing doesn't have to be slow, isolating, or exhausting. So, for clients or for the people who serve them. So, we've heard about a different way forward, one rooted in integration, presence, and real change. So, if you are a therapist, a coach, healing professional who's been listening along and feels that quiet sense of recognition that this may be your invitation, please feel free to reach out. And thank you guys for joining us on this journey. One more time, Melanie, how do we contact you?
You can find us at info@learnaait.com or visit the website or find a therapist and get a session. You just, like Carla did, just find a practitioner, grab a session, see what it's like.
Beautiful. And Carla, how do we contact you?
The same way
Okay.
the website Melanie gave, it leads to all AAIT practitioners, and I'm in there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. You have a fantastic day. Happy holidays, everyone, and looking to connect again, okay? Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.